Ken Turner has been our superintendent of grounds for nearly 4 years, and more recently became our chairman of the grounds committee and golf course design committee. And I can tell you from personal experience, he excels at both. So, welcome Ken Turner to carry on with this meeting. Ken?
Thank you. Thank all of you for coming out tonight. This is great that we have this big of a crowd. One of my responsibilities here as golf course superintendent is to sort of listen to the membership and hear what they have to say and make changes accordingly. Greens are too fast, greens are too slow, things like that. And about a year ago, I was asked to prioritize some of the infrastructure issues that we have out there. And as many of you know, we have drainage that needs addressed. We have an old, antiquated irrigation system, and our bunkers are failing. So because of the last project, in listening to the membership, I thought maybe the conversation needed to be had before we started into a long-range plan, which is something that you do when you need those things so that you get things right. That the conversation needed to be had is who was going to do that master plan. So there was a committee at that time called the Long Range Golf Planning Committee, and we met and we sort of discussed it and agreed that, yeah, the course needed a new look. And after an extensive vetting process, we decided on a new group of people. And that committee switched over to the the Grounds and Golf Long Range Planning Committee. And I'd like those people now to stand up so that after this meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So if I will include myself in those questions also. But if you're on the Grounds and Golf Course Design Committee, would you please stand up so that you can be introduced? Okay, as vice chairman, we have here Dr. Tom Moran. Because he's also president of the club and good at answering questions, we have Mr. Mark Jenke. In the back here, you have Mrs. Lisa Consolino. And in front of her, you have Mrs. Cindy Crilly. Not here this evening is Dr. Robert Hodgkins, unless he made it. I haven't seen him yet. Okay, but if you're friends of his, feel free to ask him questions. Also not present this evening is Mrs. Leslie Hopping. Over here we have Mr. Daniel McGarian. Terry Meyer not present this evening. Mr. Hal Robertson not here present this evening. Mr. Bruce Roddy not present, but feel free to ask those guys when you get to them. We also have Mr. Peter Theron and Mr. Tony Tulisiak, who is not here. Also available for questions, myself, Tim Glenn, that's right here, and Mr. Gil Gusweiler, who is soon switching over to Jason Torque. All right? So that committee unanimously decided to pick a golf course architect. It was a unanimous decision. And during that process, there was one quality that stood out, and that was their ability to gather member information, get members involved, and come up with a great product. So I would like to now introduce the people who are going to speak this evening as Jason Straka and Dana Fry of Fry Straka Global Golf Design.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. I think we're going to do, let's see, we got to switch. There we go. Good thing I'm not trying to get to the airport security tonight. All set?
Yes.
All right. We got separate mics for all of you, plus the video camera here. So thanks for coming out tonight. Boy, it's a great crowd. We really appreciate taking time out of your busy schedules. We know this isn't easy. We're both members at various clubs, and it definitely takes a commitment to come out and to listen to professionals such as ourselves. So again, thank you very much. The goal for this evening is to spend just a little bit of time talking about Dana's background, my background in the company. Some of you may be familiar with us, some of you are not, I'm sure. Some of you might have played our golf courses and didn't even know who we were. So we'll just take a few minutes to give you a bit of our background, and then we're going to talk about process here of what we're getting ready to start, or what has actually been started at Kenwood Country Club. So there have been no design decisions made. There is nobody that's sitting in the back room drafting plans right now saying we're going to talk about one thing and do something else completely different. That's not what we do. That's not what happens. And so we're going to go through this design process, which may or may not be a little bit different than what you've gone through in the past. And then really we want to talk about how all of you can be involved as well. So again, this presentation is not, we're not going to talk about what's going to happen on the golf course, because frankly we don't know quite yet, but we are going to talk about what's going to happen over really the next 12 months and then the next couple of years. So with that, hopefully, of course, guess what? Oh, how'd you do it though? Okay. We only got here an hour early and tested everything out, so wouldn't you know it? Always happens. It's going to say, it happens all the time and it's inevitable. So there's the left click. Yeah, okay, we'll just do it that way. So I'm going to let Dana just give himself a brief introduction, talk a little bit about his background, and I'll do the same, and then we talk a little bit about the company.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dana Fry, partner of Jason Straka. You're going to see something rare tonight in the fact that I won't be doing a lot of talking. And believe me, I talk a lot.
Jason.
But with the subject matter we're going to do tonight, he's by me so they can get it on the tape. Jason will give an incredibly informative talk. But my background is substantially different. I started in the business in 1983. I played college golf at the University of Arizona. By pure chance, I met a guy, there's a story behind it, but I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell the story later when we're drinking here later this evening. But I met a guy in a bar, and he happened to be the right-hand man of Tom Fazio. And they were just starting a job in Tucson at the time called Ventana Canyon. He offered me a part-time job, took a semester off of college. I never finished my last year of college. 1983, I worked from Tom from 1983 to 1988. And my background was I was out on the job sites and I was literally doing the shaping. I was taught to run a bulldozer by a guy named by Andy Banfield and Mike Strantz, who many people know did like the Monterey Peninsula Country Club golf course. Was a great architect who unfortunately passed away with cancer a few years back. But those two gentlemen taught me how to build golf courses, how to move dirt, create shapes, and create the really dramatic looking golf courses that Tom Fazio built. I then went to work with Mike Hertzen in 1988, as you know, and I lived in Columbus, Ohio at that point, from 1988 until I moved to Hong Kong. I lived there for about a little over 20 years. And basically with Mike Hertzen, Mike was more the technical side of things, and I was more the artistic guy that spent the time in the field and oversaw the projects. So I spent the better part of 24 years with Mike, and I traveled almost constantly, overseeing 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time. Jason and I partnered up in 2012, and I think at that point Jason had already worked with Dr. Hertzen and I for 17 years. So Jason and I have been working together for like close to 25 years now ourselves. When I started working with Jason, Jason was very unique in the fact he's very technically qualified, but he also has the practical experience in the field of building golf courses. It's usually people are stronger like I am on one side as opposed to the other. Jason is well-rounded in both sides. When you hear the presentation he'll do tonight and explains how the process and how everybody in this room can be as involved as they want to be, and every member of this club, when I first started hearing that and seeing how he would do it, I'd go into some of these meetings and maybe 200 people. Halfway into the meeting it would almost erupt and people are just firing questions. Angry, upset, don't understand why you're doing this, talking about that. He would answer every question, and then the way he would have them fill out the questionnaires and answer their questions in time the trustee would bill, it was overwhelming to me, and there's no question you have the right guy, I think, in the country to lead you down this process. He's really good at it, and you'll see that very shortly.
He doesn't get paid extra for saying any of that either, but thank you. All right, it's working again. All right. So briefly about my background. So I am a Buckeye, an Ohio guy. Grew up in northeastern Ohio. I started off at a place called Avalon, if anybody's ever been up that way. We had 36 golf holes there, and I got my start in the maintenance side of things. So after that, I knew that I didn't want to be a golf course superintendent where Ken sat. I didn't have the stomach for it, and you definitely have a good one here. So I decided to pursue the design aspect of it. I went to Cornell University and I studied landscape architecture with a senior thesis under a guy named Tom Doak. For those of you who are well-traveled and have played at places at Bandon Dunes and many of his other courses, he is a little bit older than me, but I spent time really learning from him as well. And also a guy named Johans. So the three of us are at Cornell. And then I got a degree in environmental design and turfgrass management, also at Cornell. I studied under a guy named Norm Hummel. Doesn't mean anything to you guys, but he was one of the leading soil scientists in the field of golf course and sports fields. And so, again, a very technical background. I then went and worked in construction for a couple of years, building golf courses. And I said that my master's background was also, my thesis was on the first environmental demonstration golf course designed and built in the United States. And then as Dana said, I went to work with Mike and Dana back in 1994, 1995. And so we've been together quite a long time. It's working, there we go. So we're working. Okay, now, it's not just the two of us, so we're the two faces. You know, when it comes time to meetings and time out in the field, you're always going to have one or both principals involved. That's something which is a bit different than many other companies that you may have interviewed or frankly practicing in our profession right now. But we do have a very talented staff behind us. We actually have one of the gentlemen here today, Patrick Burton. Patrick, wherever you are at, stand up, don't just sit and wave. Come on, you stand up. So Patrick actually, long story, made very short, but I taught at Ohio State University for 10 years, golf course design, environmental golf course design and management. Patrick was my very first student. So all the torture that I had teaching at the university level was thanks to him. But it was a great experience. But Patrick and I have known each other since his very beginning start. And Patrick has designed many golf courses, particularly over in China and other places. But Patrick will be supporting us on the project. You may occasionally bump into him or see him, but at least you can put a name and a face together. We do have many other people that are working with us. They've with various backgrounds. For example, when it comes time to do PR or marketing campaigns, whether it's not only within the club, but also if you're trying to attract new members, build that rapport within the golf industry and the golf community, that's something that we can help with. We take that very seriously. Those people will be involved every step of the way. So again, that's just part of our team. I'm not going to sit here and go through everybody's backgrounds, but I do want to make the point that the presentation, not only is it being taped, but we will leave it for all of you so that you can scroll through it. If you're interested in reading our staff backgrounds or spending more time on any of these particular slides, everything will be available to you, okay? So rest assured you're not going to miss anything. So again, about our company, so we've got introduced to Dana and myself, Patrick. The experience of our company, we've been at it for 55 plus years. So it's been quite a long time. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've remodeled probably 400 plus golf courses, hard to even keep track anymore, to be honest, and probably have built, designed that many new golf courses. We've done it all throughout Ohio, all throughout the United States. We work worldwide. The nice thing about the way that we have our company set up right now is that we can be very selective with our projects. So obviously the attraction here is that it's a very storied golf course. Frankly, it's in my backyard. which is wonderful because that's one less trip overseas that I have to make someplace. So you get to see my smiling face, hopefully quite a lot. Something else, again, we talk about is the technical experience and background. This is something that I know Kent and I and his staff spend a lot of time discussing. A lot of new technologies and things that we're going to be bringing to Kenwood Country Club. And so, things that you may or may not have seen at other clubs, are things that we have done, been tested and tried and trued. So that'll be a nice thing, again, that we're bringing to the table here. We're thought leaders. We spend a lot of time within the golf industry itself. For example, I'm the president of the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation right now. That means that I am staying on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to turfgrass research and construction within the state. Kent's actually getting involved with that now, and I'm going to be rolling off of that board. Eventually, he's going to be rolling on that board, but I'm also going to be taking over as Secretary of the American Society of Golf Course Architects, and will assume the presidency in 4 years. So in terms of what's happening out in the golf world, we definitely have our thumb right on top of it. Okay. That being said, let's talk about the process now here, which is what you're going to be most interested in. Well, plenty of opportunity to ask questions after the fact, so please make sure that you ask whatever questions you've got. As Dana said, you can fire them off, and we'll be sure to stay here till the very last person has asked any questions. And if you'd rather ask them in private, that's okay too. We'll be available after the meeting as well. So let's talk about what we call the team approach. Okay, this is something that big, small, again, we do projects of all sizes and of all calibers, but this approach has been successful so many times, time and time again. Recently, one of these projects that Dana had mentioned in Florida we're working on, it seemed like that 80 or 90% of the people were dead set against doing anything. By the time that we finished this process, we ended up having a 90% approval rate to move the project forward. That's something that that we're very proud of, but it's just about building that confidence and trust and support. So we talk about, you'll hear this word master plan. What does that mean? Well, to us, it means that we're going to define a scope of work. We don't know what that scope of work is right now. We know, that there are some deficiencies that are out there. We know that Muni irrigation system needs to be updated and replaced. We know that bunkers are a priority, but other parts that come into this, we're not exactly sure what that may or may not look like yet. Obviously, we can come up with the best plan you can possibly imagine, but if we can't match funding to it, then it becomes a roll of paper or a disc someplace that collects dust. So one of the key aspects to this entire process is going to be trying to determine what the club wants, what it needs, and then what it can afford. Right? I know that there undoubtedly are questions that are out there right now. How are we going to pay for this? How does this get financed? Are we going to be assessed something, or what's going to happen with that? All right? We haven't even had that discussion yet, all right? We're going to still try and determine here, when I say we haven't had this discussion, Dana, I, my staff, haven't had that discussion yet, but what, again, we're trying to do is to build a plan that ultimately can be funded. The other thing that is important is that it needs to be a phased implementation, right? So we know that whatever happens is that likely we're going to do it in 2019 and then the second course in 2020. Did you get that right? Yes. All right, make sure I didn't misspeak. So 2019 and 2020. That doesn't mean, though, that things won't happen later than that. Or if there's opportunities maybe to do something over this coming year, again, the golf course is constantly being improved. Kent and the staff, they're out there all winter long working. That we wouldn't take that opportunity either, okay? But whatever plan that we come up with, it's supposed to be breathing a living entity, right? So it's not necessarily cast in stone. Things change. What I tell people a lot of times is that you have to think about your golf course as a little bit like your home, right? People always say, I don't want to change a golf course, don't do anything to it. Well, you have to keep in mind, for example, when you own a home, I don't know anybody that hasn't put a new roof on. I don't know anybody that hasn't replaced their furnace, okay, or their hot water tank. Those are all things that need to be budgeted for and improved upon, all right? And a golf course is no different. Bunkers have a certain life expectancy, as do greens, as does turf, as does irrigation system. So the way to do this smartly, intelligently, is to plan out ahead of time so that when all of a sudden when something breaks, you're not, you know, caught holding the proverbial bag. Let's see. Did something bad here. What you can't see is that I just opened something up on the computer. Always. Always. Any clue? Maybe this again. Okay, here we go. See, just in time. Okay, so one of the very first steps that we do is we create a team. Okay, and so people want to know who's on this team. Well, you have a professional staff that makes up the team. That's first and foremost. So you have your golf course superintendent, Kent Turner. We have the assistant golf course superintendent, Tim is over here. Of course, the director of golf, Gil, and will be soon Jason. Your COO, of course, keep everybody in line. Director of finance, how the heck do we pay for this? Dana's taking pictures here, or video, what are you doing? Video, okay. Executive assistant, Lori, she's a go-to person when I really need to get things done. Thank God she's part of the committee. You know, we have professional consultants, so we have Dana and myself. Of course, we put ourselves at the top. Why not? We have an irrigation consultant, Michael Kuhn. By the way, your irrigation consultant we've worked with in the past, are currently designing a new course with up at Arcadia Bluffs. Anybody ever travels up to Michigan? Mike is a great guy, fantastic irrigation designer, and the right person for the job, so feel very good about that. You should have got that on video, Dana. So we have a professional engineer and landscape architect who's already engaged and already involved. When it comes time to figure out what we're going to do, we need to make sure that it gets permitted, and so that's a very key aspect to this whole process. And then the thing that we like to do is to put this other part of the team together, which are made up of club representatives. So Kent did a very good job of introducing those people. But I want to explain something that what you as members need to sort of focus on, what their involvement is that they're sort of your representatives in this process, okay? It's very difficult sometimes, to maybe track Dana or I down individually. You can send us emails, but they're really your liaison. And the way that it's structured is that we have ladies, we have men, we have older members, younger members, okay, we have high handicaps, low handicaps, people who are in between. Everybody here, again, it's not a homogenous membership, it never is. And so people have different desires, different wants, different needs, different expectations. And so the idea is that all these people then can go back to their golfing groups. So you can see, different groups that are on here, and talk with all of you and say, this is what the committee is considering. This is what Jason and Dana, have said. This is what they think. What do you think? Then they can bring that information back to the committee level and communicate that to Dana, I, Patrick, Kent, and the rest of the group. Okay? So the intent is that they're there, to lead the process on behalf of the club, to be very engaged with the membership. Okay? So that's the reason why you have emails and they volunteered their information. And rest assured, they're going to be really involved, really engaged in this. This is a lot of time and a lot of effort. So at the end of this process, the club will be certainly indebted to their involvement. So that team is in place. The next thing that we do is that we try to answer some questions. Why? All right, you've already been down the road here of some renovations. I know that some of you are probably thinking, well, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? Why wasn't it good enough the first time? Or why didn't we think of that? Or why are we at this again? There's a lot of whys, okay, as you can imagine. Well, try and put up some things for people to consider, all right? Irrigation system inefficiencies, all right? I've never had somebody come and say, what, Kent, next year the expectation is that even though all of your equipment has gotten older, all right, it's okay and if the maintenance of the golf course isn't quite as good as last year, right? That never happens, okay, that never happens. And so again, it's always about planning for and giving your superintendent and your team the tools to be very successful. So irrigation system inefficiencies and age-related failures. Right? Drainage becomes a higher priority. All right, I've been up and down this golf course and all over the place around this property, and there are certainly greater improvements for drainage. That does a couple of things. One is that it may extend some of your playing season. All right, it makes the golf rounds, and when you're out there, more enjoyable, so you're not sloshing around. It helps from the maintenance standpoint, so that you're not compacting soils, right? So that you don't have as much disease pressure. So again, it makes it more playable, it makes the maintenance better. Your sand bunkers. You know, we've looked at all the different sand bunkers. Yes, you have, you know, stylistic, desires and wants and needs, but through experience, Dana and I know that most of your sand bunkers are not really properly placed anymore. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that you probably have 15 and 20 and 25 handicaps that are being punished by sand bunkers, where that you have highly skilled golfers, they're not even considering the bunkers that are out there, they're not even thinking about them, they're just hitting right past them. So everybody wants more enjoyable golf, they want it to be faster golf, so then you have to ask yourselves the questions, okay, then why are bunkers out there punishing 20 handicaps instead of challenging the single-digit handicaps? Okay? The other thing that happens too that people don't realize many times is that your staff here, just as they do most places in the country and around the world, spend as much maintaining sand bunkers as they do putting greens. Think about that. The most intensively maintained parts of the golf course are your putting greens, but they spend just as much time and money spending sand bunkers as they do greens. Right? To me, that sounds crazy. The good thing is that there's new technology that's out there where we can start to lessen some of that. And that way, not only are the sand bunkers in better condition, and all of you are happier, but also it alleviates some of the pressure from Kent and his staff so that they can spend time and money elsewhere on the golf course. Other things, you know, that are on there too. I mean, you have a greater sophistication of members. You know, we're in a climate now where we're scrimping and scrapping for, you know, every good member that's out there. So when you talk about competition, you know, people's expectations of what they have here are obviously different. You get a greater diversity of skills that play golf. Many times we get involved with clubs like this, and I'll get people that'll come to me and they'll be in their mid to late 70s, 80s, even early 90s, and say, Jason and Dana, I would love to continue to play golf here, but I'm going to have to give up my membership because I can't play the golf courses anymore. Well, you're losing those members. You know, first off, as a club. But second, well, if we can extend quality of life for that group of people where they can be actively involved here at the club, great for them too. Okay? Non-golf course factors. You know, there are things such as safety issues. You do have a few safety issues out there that certainly would like to see addressed. All right? So golf and maintenance equipment technology. I'll give you examples of that. I guarantee you that when Bill Diddle, that was your original architect, had designed these golf courses, right, there were far more pin positions on your greens than there are today. Okay? So now what happens is that Kent and his staff have to take those pins and they have to concentrate them in certain areas, causing, again, you know, more difficult maintenance. But on the flip side of that is that from an architectural standpoint, Dana and I look at it and say, you know what? You lost some of the strategy, you lost some of the fun that was originally designed within the golf courses. So the question becomes, what do you do about it, if anything? So those are things that we look at as well. And much of that is actually caused by quality of the maintenance equipment. And, you know, when the golf courses were originally designed here, nobody was thinking that he was mowing them at 1/10 of an inch, whatever, right? That just wasn't the case. For those of you who are interested, there is a chart here that's called Golf Course Life Cycle. So all these major groups got together a few years ago. You have superintendents, architects, National Golf Owners Association, club managers, USGA, PGA, and a few others. They got together to figure out how long certain aspects of a golf course are intended to last, right? So, because inevitably you're going to get questioned, especially those of you who are in the committee, why do we have to replace the irrigation system? It's still pumping water, right? Well, you know, the expected system here is supposed to last roughly 30 years. There are new technologies where we can extend that out quite a bit, you know, but when you start looking at things that might have been in the ground for 40 or 50 or 60 years here, and you've never done anything to them, it's kind of like saying, you know what, I have a roof on my house, I haven't replaced it for 60 years, why do I need to replace it? Well, here's some information, you know, some information that you can turn to help educate members with. Okay. project has two components. So we get a technical design process, and then we have this historical aspect to the design as well, which would be the Bill Diddle design. Now, there'll be a test on this slide a little bit later. So again, this is a very functional design process that we go through. You can see that it's very detailed, very involved. I'll show you a few highlights of this. But one thing that I do want to draw your attention to is that before any design happens, this whole first section has to be completed. When Kent had mentioned, that one of the things that drew, the club and the selection committee to Dana and I was our involvement in basically this community or team approach. It was really, a lot of this gets focused on research and analysis. And I'm going to show you some of that, again, because there's so much that goes into that before we actually consider any hardcore design ideas, okay? I tell people it's kind of like this. So you go to the doctor and you say, I'm not feeling well, all right? Anyway, I'm sure there are a few doctors here in the room. If you have a patient that comes to you or you go to the doctor doesn't say, well, here's a bunch of medication, try a bunch of it and let me know if any of it works. Okay, it doesn't work that way. What they do is that they'll start taking tests, right? They start to try to analyze, find out what your symptoms are, take blood tests, do all these types of things. What we're going to start at this club is no different. So you're going to see a whole bunch of involvement and analysis that's going to happen, basically to figure out exactly what the club needs, what the club wants, and we're going to collect an enormous amount of data going through the process. And all of you can be involved in every step of the way. We built a schedule already, right? So it's great to talk about all those things, but I know that the expectation here at the club is that, by the golly, we want to figure out what we're going to do and do it in 2019 and 2020. So we've got a lot of work to do between, 2019 sounds great, 2020 sounds even better, but there is a whole lot of work, right? A whole lot of work that's got to happen between now and then. And so what we do is we put together this schedule of that functional design process to keep us on track. So your committee members have this in hand, okay? So if you have questions about it, you can go to them and ask. You can see when we'll convene more town hall meetings, when we're going to do what we call a club survey. That'll be starting soon, okay? So you can keep track. There's nothing that's being done, again, in the back room that we're trying to hide from anybody. So if you want to know what the schedule is, ask. It's out there. Right, as we're going through that functional design process, right, we also like to go back and start to look at the historical and artistic side of the golf courses. That's much of what you are all interested in. It's how beautiful your golf course is, right? It's what it looks like, what the artistic aspects are like. We're going to be asking and answering these questions along the way. How important is it to go back or to keep some of the original design? We've already gotten one or two emails from people that were ahead of this meeting saying, I can't attend the meeting, but this aspect is really important to me. Right? I can tell you that Gale, for example, is pretty much in its original layout, most of it. Okay? But what you're actually playing on in terms of surface, in terms of tee locations, in terms of bunker styles, bunker locations, fairway widths, tree locations, has nothing to do with what Bill Diddle put out there. Now we're going to investigate exactly what that was, how important that aspect is. Do we restore some of that? Were there concepts that got lost in time? Okay, so we will again be looking at all of that. We also have to focus on where the game of golf is evolving. When the courses were originally built, people weren't flying the ball. What's Rory hit it in the air now? 320. So he flies the ball 320 yards in the air. I was playing golf with my nephews a little while ago. We were doing some redesign work. I asked him if he could carry a certain bunker. Not only did he carry it the bunker, he flew it over the fairway, and I lasered it. It was 340 yards. 340 yards is inconceivable with how far people can hit it, now compared to back then when these golf courses were built. And I'll give you a real quick example of how this impacts. Help me out with the hole 4, Dale, in the corner, the par 5. Did I get that right? Well, okay. One of the very first times that I was on the golf course here, I stood on the tee and I went, boy, the hole's got great topography. Too bad I can't see the landing area or any of the bunkers. And I said, you know what, I bet in the original design, the tee used to be right at the precipice of the hill, and you probably had a beautiful view of the golf hole. And now in the search for length, you started building tees, and now what? Now you have a blind tee shot, okay? So now the question is that, okay, is it okay to have that blind tee shot, or would it be good to go back to the original design? If you go back to the original design, nobody wants to give up the length, so the question is, how do you create a sight line, all right, to restore the beauty and the original intent of the golf hole, okay? So think about that in those types of terms. We get questioned a lot. Are you going to design for Jason Straka's skill set? Are you? And Dana's going, God, I hope not. Are you going to design for Dana's, Arizona collegiate golf experience? Question is, we're going to design for everybody, right? And people say, how can you have a sensitivity towards that? You have to understand that my wife plays golf. My teenage son now, plays golf. Dana's stepson now, who is 13. Has become a good golfer, but he raised him, to learn how to play golf. I have parents and in-laws who are, in their late 70s that play golf. Okay, I have family that's competitive collegiate members who play golf. So I'm out there, and if I can't go and enjoy the golf course with them, then it doesn't become a very enjoyable experience for me. They don't want to go play places that are either too difficult or have been, quote, dumbed down. We hear that all the time. Please don't dumb down my golf courses. So again, the goal of this entire process is to ensure that your golf courses are fun and playable for everybody. You'll hear time and time again, we're going to build confidence and trust and support in this process. Because if we don't, ultimately the project will fail. All right, a few things about the functional design process. Okay, we talked a lot about this research and analysis. I want to hit on a few things because these are things that you all can become directly involved with. Right? We're going to spend a lot of time taking all sorts of different data. Right? And a few of these things we'll start with, let's see if it comes up. By the way, there's your historical map. We'll be coming and studying the historical aspects of the golf course. We do have the original design layout from Bill Diddle. We'll be running a program here with GPS data loggers. Anybody ever go running and turn their phone on and track their running? Anybody do that? Nobody does that. I know people, I see, okay, people nodding. So what Dana and I own are, you can see there's the size of a quarter, and these are little GPS data trackers. So we're going to give them to your professional golf staff, and we're going to hopefully run it for about a month, month and a half, maybe even 2 months, depending upon how many data points that we get. All right, we'd like to get roughly maybe 500 for each golf course. And we'd like a whole diversity of skill sets. What happens is you just turn it on and you put it in your pocket, okay? And then you go play golf. Forget about it for the 18 holes. A few people forget about it, take them home and wash them. Go places maybe they shouldn't be going. But we don't, we ignore all that, don't worry about it. So what we're really looking for is to analyze what your player movements are on the golf course and explain how this helps. First off, we can tag it if it's male or female, and we can tag it by handicap level. So this is a course that Dana and I were recently working on in Florida. And you can see a hole 2 women here, hole 2 men. This was a par 4 here. All right. Remember, one of the things that I told you is that bunkers cost just as much to maintain as greens. So if we find places, for example, like here on this golf hole, these 4 bunkers here, that hundreds and hundreds of golfers have played this golf hole and have never been in either 4 of those bunkers ever one time. Okay? The question becomes, is that a valuable source of time and money on the club's part to keep those bunkers in play? Obviously, people aren't hitting into them, okay? Now, they could be there, you might say, you know what, they're beautiful, let's leave them, we don't mind spending the money. Or maybe they're there because of safety issues, for example, of these houses, and maybe they steer people away. That's where Dana and I start to come in and start to analyze some of this. In this case, it was neither. And so they were maintaining all these bunkers, and it never came into play. Other things are happening that we found out. If you look, there are these 2 bunkers here. We got these things tagged, and so what's happening is that here's the majority of the landing area, and we're finding that even the lower handicaps are even hitting it down close to the green here. So these 2 bunkers, here and here, were only capturing higher handicap players. People would always complain, oh, we get to the 2nd hole and the 3rd hole is a par 3, and by God, the place slowed down. Well, we can start to figure out exactly why, okay? So these bunkers, in the end, they actually ended up getting moved in closer to where the landing area was. Your higher handicap golfers then frankly couldn't reach them. Other things, for example, we were finding is that you see, you call it a donut bunker here, or this pot bunker. I tell you what is happening is that the men, if you look here, men were here, they hit right past it, hit onto the green. Your women were hitting here, you see the concentrated lines that were happening here. People, the golfers, the lady golfers are having to lay up. So here it was a mid par 4, and you go and ask the question, your expectation to hit it onto that par 4 green, you need to have 90% of the females go, no, because I can't hit it past that bunker. So I have to hit a driver and then a 7-iron and lay up. Okay, well, is that bunker in a good spot then? Is that serving a good purpose? Obviously the answer is no. You go and you ask the majority of men, do you even consider this bunker in play? And they say, no, not at all. Okay? So again, you can see how these PPS data trackers will help analyze hazards, bunker locations. We'll also look at it for traffic problems. For example, you can go out and probably pick out golfer traffic problems out there with Kent right now. And we might come out and say, you know what, we got a couple of trees we need to cut down. And all of you are going to say, why? And we're going to say, you know why you always complain about the turf condition right at this point in the fairway here in the rough condition? Well, the reason is that you got trees there taking up water and nutrients, but you also have a huge concentration of golf cart traffic. And you're going to look at us and say, how do you know that? And we're going to say, because we can show it to you. That's why. So again, the more people that participate in this program, the better. The other thing that we will be doing very soon, by the way, we won't be doing that until the course opens and we get it in decent condition, so I think we talked about May, correct? The other thing that we'll be doing is a club survey. All right, now the club survey is focused obviously on golf. It's painless. It'll take anywhere from about 10 to 20 minutes at the most. If you really want to write an essay to Dana and I, that's okay. But they're targeted questions. We want to try and understand what your goals and priorities, wishes, desires, things you love, things you hate about your own golf courses, okay? It's a way for you to get involved. It's a way for us to analyze and understand what you are all thinking, okay? The more information that we gather from you, the better, okay? So it's the more data we get, the more accurate it's going to be. The other thing that this helps with is that when it comes time and we have a certain budget that we have to hit and we need to prioritize certain things, this is one way, okay, one way that we can help to prioritize what things are most important to all of you, okay? So if we hear from all of you that bunkers need to get done, great, okay, then we're going to focus money on bunkers. If we hear from all of you that, by God, we need a new forward set of tees or a new senior set of tees or whatever the case may be, maybe that becomes a priority, okay? So again, the more that you participate, the better it is for all of us. And by the way, that survey is ready to go. So I'm thinking that probably next week we'll be able to make it live. It's done online. Most of it are just click the boxes. We'll break down the data. There is some places where you can write, certain things. Jason and Dana, I really don't like you. Go away. Whatever you're gonna write to us. But please, again, the more feedback, good, bad, and ugly is okay. We got thick skin. It's okay. All right. After that's done, we're going to visit with what we call stakeholders. Okay, we don't call them focus groups because focus groups means that we're going to take a certain snippet of the club and go meet with them. What we like to do is to spend maybe about 3 days and we open it up to the membership. Now what we'll do is that we'll typically break it up into ladies, maybe high handicap, low handicap, seniors. And what we found over time is that we really like to get one-on-one feedback. And so what you don't want to have happen is that you get one group that may be intimidated or they don't want to sound stupid in front of somebody else. There's never any stupid questions or stupid comments. And so, again, we want that feedback. So we're going to end up scheduling, especially after people start coming back from their Florida homes or their winter homes, to come and spend time with Dana and I. And really becomes an open conversation. We'll have some questions that we'll typically ask, just to sort of get the conversation going. But again, the reality is that we want you to ask us questions. We want your feedback. At that point, you could also ask, how did the survey go? What did you think? So again, there's that feedback. So another way to stay involved. we'll start to, we call communicating problems. So things that we start to see out on the golf course, things that start to become evident in the survey and in stakeholder meetings. We do a lot of high resolution, imagery. So we'll start showing some of these things to you to help spur on some of these ideas and some of this conversation. Once we finish gathering all of this data, what we do is that we make the desired list of goals. We call that a program list. For anybody who's an architect or an engineer, you're used to that term or phrase, program list. So, some of these things may be improve irrigation system, improve sand bunkers, improve drainage, playability. By the way, that's almost always at the top of virtually every club's list is playability. Reviewing trees and landscaping, looking at grasses, which may impact, greens, for example. We may get a preponderance of people that say, we can't putt the whatever green, pick a green that's too severe. We can't, we lack pin positions, the ball doesn't stay on the green, it rolls off on the green, we don't like it anymore. We'll look at some of the past renovation work, look at tee locations, improve cart path systems, whatever the case may be. I don't know what it's going to come out yet, but we create this program list. And that's what we start to focus on when it comes to design. Now, one of the things, again, that's really, really important is that people all over the world, maintenance is really important to them, much more so than design, okay? So the good thing is that our staff has very strong agronomic maintenance backgrounds. And so there were surveys that have been done, even nationwide. There was a Golf Digest survey that was done, I think, 2 or 3 different times. Maintenance is more important than design. Okay, think about that. Maintenance is more important than design. So the question is that why do we go through all this design process? Well, what we do has such a big impact on maintenance. All right, so if you look at some of these factors, drainage, shade, where trees are planted and we're growing, traffic patterns, all these things we're talking about, there's so much that what we do will have an impact, direct impact, on what Kent and his staff and Tim are going to be able to provide to you on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Okay? That's going to be right at the very forefront of any design work that we do. After all of that, now we're ready to start to do some actual design work. Okay? What we do is what we call schematic design. Now, all this means is that there's very rudimentary drawings, there's stick and ball. If there are things that come up within the golf course where somebody thinks that maybe we have a safety issue and we have to move a green or move a tee location or move a hole, you've done a whole bunch of that in the past, but we're looking at it in spatial concepts. There's not a whole lot of detailed design that's happening at this stage. And I'll give you an example, which is probably what happened here, at least I hope. This was a club in Connecticut where we were looking at expanding the practice facilities, similar to what you did here. The way that we use some of the data here, you can see that some of these holes are highlighted in yellow. Those are favorite holes of the membership. So that came out in the survey. The survey will ask you, what are your favorite holes, least favorite holes? So one of the things that we were doing was looking at expanding or even relocating the practice range. Well, all of these, it had a bunch of different variations of it, impacted the club's favorite holes. So when we gave them options, we were able to say, okay, your favorite holes, how many were impacted or not impacted? And that helped in their decision-making process. But you'll notice over here that we call it stick and ball. It's kind of like building a skeleton first, right? We're not adding the skin and the bones. There's not a detail. You don't see real detailed greens or even bunker locations. The questions that we're asking is, does a hole belong there? Does a green belong there? Do bunkers even belong on the golf hole or in a certain location? That's what schematic design is first. Once we get past that phase, and we may generate up to 30 different options for different reasons, and the club will have impact, will have say on those. So you have the committee in place, and they'll be vetting all these ideas as we go along. They'll bring them back to the membership. When we get down to a couple of them, we'll even present them to the membership to get feedback as well. But usually there's, for whatever reason, one that comes right up to the top. And that's the one that gets carried through to what we call design development. Now, design development, you'll notice here, for example, the practice range of this golf course was expanded. It increased from 28,000 square feet to 39,000 square feet. So we're getting into very detailed minutia. How many bunkers are there? How big are they? What do they look like? Okay, that's what the design development phase is. And as we're going through all of this, by the way, we didn't forget the financial aspect of it, right? We're doing cost estimates every step of the way. So when we're doing those schematic designs and those sort of bigger picture 30,000 foot level ideas, we're tagging those, okay, with costs. And so again, it may look like a great idea, but maybe it's cost too much money, okay? So there's always that balance that takes place. Now when we come down to design development, you can see how detailed our cost estimates get. So there's, I don't know, 50, 60 different line items. And as we move through that design process, they become more detailed, more refined, and even more accurate. Now I'll give you an example. We had a project that just went to bid, or we just got it back from bid in Florida. It was roughly a $2.5 to $3 million, no, excuse me, $3.5 million project. We had 3 or 4 bids from golf course contractors that came in at less than 1.5% of our estimate, of our cost estimate. That's how accurate and how detailed we're able to get. I'm not going to click on these, but these are graphics that we can do to help all of you understand. It's one thing to look at it in 2D. It's another thing to actually go through and do 3D video fly-throughs and all sorts of different before and after images. That'll be available in the presentation. You can click through, and there's all sorts of fancy buttons, and you guys will have, I'm sure some of you will have fun looking at all of that. This is some work that Patrick has done for us recently. These are the types of before and after images too, so we're sort of vetting even maybe bunker design styles and what they may look like. You'll notice this is actually during the course of the tournament. You can see the American flag here in all the stands. This was a before. They wanted to know what a rougher bunkered style might look like. You can see the American flag here in all the stands. And you can see with the after image. So again, it's one thing to look at it 2D. It's one thing, you know what, Jason and Dana and Patrick, show me what it's going to look like. And we have that ability, and you will see some of those. At that point, we can move to what we call a finished revising and the drawings, and create what we call master plan drawings. And so these are the drawings that ultimately, that all the construction documents and the permitting get based on, that move forward to implementation. So again, cost estimates are getting revised. We're actually revising all of the staging, so the scheduling that you saw at the very beginning of the project. Every step of the way, we're revising that if need be. And again, we're setting priorities, matching that to your budget, your construction budget, and your maintenance budget, by the way. Don't, you know, some people might be out there who are pretty astute with that. You've got your construction budget, but you also have your maintenance budget. And we get things so dialed in, you know, on that side of it, many times clubs will forget and say, okay, well, here's what it costs, but what's it going to save me, or what's it going to cost me in the long run? And that is a very important part of this process that will not get overlooked. So construction drawings, when it comes time, we have very detailed plan sets, written specifications, construction details. You'll hear me talk about that the tighter that we build the bid box, you know, we don't like to have any ambiguity. So if anybody here is a contractor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If there are things that we're not quite sure what our intent is, when they go to give you the club prices, if there's any ambiguity, they'll start to put in a lot of fluff. We don't do that. Again, you heard that we had a whole bunch of bids that just came back in at, you know, roughly 1.2% of our construction estimates. When we do the bids, they'll come back in. These are all different contractors. These are all the bid items. We help you in negotiating. So it's a private club. It's not a public course. So you're able to look and talk and negotiate with a whole handful of different golf course contractors. Again, we'll help with that process. Once we get the golf course contractor on board, obviously it moves into the construction or implementation phases. We may or may not have the same committee involved. Some clubs choose to actually have an implementation committee take over, and either way is okay with us. When it does come time for construction, I can tell you that during the active construction part, so long as there's not a monsoon, we're here every week. So Dana or Jason or the both of us are here every week during construction. So we are very, very hands-on. And that's something that I want to make sure that all of you as a club know. There won't be, you know, you won't have somebody out there with a set of plans, or Ken out there going, I have no idea what Jason and Dana had in mind here. You know, let's go wing it in the field. That's not what we do. Okay, I know I'm throwing a whole lot of info. I'm almost up to an hour here. I promised Craig wherever he is, I'd keep it to an hour. Ways for members to participate. I just want to reiterate this, okay? Because again, this may be different than what all of you have done in the past. So this will not be the only town hall meeting. So after we've done all of our research and analysis, we'll open it up again. We'll probably, get everybody who would like to come in, look at the data in terms of GPS data loggers. We'll have it analyzed. We'll have the survey data that's out there. We'll have all the engineering data. Everything that can be presented will be presented. Please take your membership survey, okay, when it comes out. Get your fellow members involved. Get your friends, okay? It won't take long. All right, you can even do it and fly through it even in about 10 minutes. So please do that. Participate in the GPS data loggers. No, I'm not going to be tracking you to go see, someplace off property. Don't worry about it. We don't do that. As a matter of fact, we probably won't even tag member names to it. The only thing we're going to tag to it is going to be gender and handicap. So don't be afraid, to do that. It's very important. Again, we have the team approach to planning, meaning you've got your committee that's in place. We will have these specialized, or we won't call them focus groups, we'll call them stakeholder groups. All right, so come and participate. I love to talk to members. It's always fascinating conversations. You probably have more things in common with other members than you probably anticipate, and people that you think that you have ideas in common with probably think something completely different. So it's always enlightening and entertaining. We do golf course tours, so at certain times, when the weather gets better, you want to take a drive around with Dana and I, or one of the two of us, we'll probably make ourselves available and do it in a small, intimate setting, so we can go out and look at certain holes out in the field, and that way it's just a good way to sort of look at the golf course, your golf course, through our eyes. And vice versa, by the way, and vice versa. We do sometimes, if there are things at other golf courses which are important to see or worth seeing, we do that. For example, Dan and I are working on a very historic Donald Ross golf course, two of them near the Tampa area. They're considering doing some restorative work, and we're going to take them over to Seminole and Pinehurst to look to see what's been done at both of those Ross courses. I know that Kent and staff, have been doing news articles, especially once we get into the hardcore design aspects of it. We like to keep people informed and updated. So, whether they're monthly or bi-monthly, I'm not sure what they are here, but we'll be sure to keep everybody abreast of what's happening. We'll be at a lot of different club events. You'll see lots of graphics. And notice the very last thing there, please contact your innovation committee. Give them feedback. Okay. And it's some of the public relations campaign that we do from right now all the way through the very end. So even as the project wraps up and finishes, Dana and I like to stay involved. We end up being members at many of our clubs that we design. We make lifelong friends. I hope that all of you will become good friends at some point. And I'm sure that we'll enjoy our company together, and especially being in my backyard, what a wonderful opportunity it is for not only Dana and I, but especially me only being an hour or so away. So with that, thank you, and we'll open it up for some questions. I'm going to hand the mic over. What was the nudge there? What was that? I'm going to hand the mic over so everybody can hear, so I hope you don't mind. You want to pass it? Thanks, Ken.
And real quick, I was a little jarred with the camera there in the beginning, and I forgot to announce my first announcement that if you drove a black Jeep Cherokee with Ohio State plates, your plates are awesome and your lights are on.
And now your battery is dead. Oh well.
Hey Jason, for the videotape, if you'd repeat the question, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm going to try and repeat the question for the videotape.
All right, I have a question.
Yes?
Thanks very much. That's an awesome presentation. It really is. So I've been a member here since 1995, and I've seen, 100 iterations to Kenwood. It's unbelievable how many there have been. So my question is, first of all, is this going to be it? Does the club finally recognize we have to fix the golf courses, whatever that means, for good? That's the first thing. Secondly, this is very early in the process. I'm just very curious to know, if you had to handicap it today, how much of this is design related versus how much of this is upgrade of maintenance, irrigation, fixing bunkers, etc.?
Okay, so let's see, a couple of questions.
And let me also say, I recognize that some of that's gonna be dictated by how the membership responds to the survey, but the committee was formed a while ago, and the committee probably has preconceived notions, and the committee's heard a lot of feedback from members over the years. So going into this process, you already kind of know what some of the big issues are. They've been around forever. I mean, Kenview, for example, if there's a more poorly designed golf hole than number 6, anywhere in the Midwest, I haven't seen it. Is my point, okay? But anyway, so with that said, I'm just curious at this stage, early in the game, how would you handicap the potential of design changes as opposed to just the very important and crucial maintenance for the next 20 years?
Well, I guess that really put, got the hot button going right there. A lot of buzz all of a sudden. Went quiet to wow. Here we go. Did you get that on the video, or do I need to retry it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So a couple of things. Kenview. That's yes. There's no question that's a hot topic. That's going to be. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. In terms of, is this going to be it? Are we going to go out and finally fix Kenview? Because I think that a lot of that depends on what people's viewpoints are. I guarantee you there are people that are saying, you know what, I can't believe what we did over there, it needs to be fixed, right? You've got certain holes that, look the old style, and you've got a mishmash of other holes. I get it. I've seen it. I've seen everything that you guys have seen. I've seen the same thing, on the 6th hole. The question becomes is that how important is that, how broken, does the membership really think that Kenview is? I don't know the answer to that because I haven't engaged the membership yet. So, Dana has his own opinions, I have my own opinion, I'm sure everybody here has their own opinion, and what their answer is. But, we don't know yet until we start to figure it out. I don't know, frankly, what the appetite is to go out and do some of the changes that I probably think you have in mind. So, in terms of now how much is maintenance related versus design related, and you saw that both of those things go hand in hand, right? So, the irrigation side, the bunker side, what the club has done, putting the committee together and understanding, with the bunkers is that, okay, yes, the bunkers need rebuilt. Okay, everybody gets that. A lot of people are unhappy with the bunkers. If it were just a maintenance thing, then you would go and rebuild them exactly in the same place that they're at now. The club had the foresight to say, well, that's probably not the right answer. The game has changed, it's evolved. You've got playability issues, speed of play issues. That then all of a sudden then tails into, okay, now it becomes a design issue because we have to do a maintenance issue, right? There are things that are out there on Kenview that may not be a maintenance issue, that are solely a design issue. And then really that becomes, right, that's the crux of it. So how important is that to make some of those changes? And what are those changes? Because if you're talking about spending a bunch of money for an incremental improvement, the answer is probably not much. If it's a huge improvement for a reasonable amount of money, you may get a bunch of buy-in. I don't know.
Let me add a positive comment. Number 2 of Kenview is one of the greatest par 3s anywhere. That's a phenomenal golf hole.
I'm going to let Kemp figure out who goes first. I'll be in the middle.
I did have a question, and then I'll hand the mic over. How much of this is likely to affect the playability of the golf courses during the playing season? In other words, are there going to be holes that are going to be closed? Are we going to have, how disruptive is it going to be to just being able to play around a golf?
We can we'll answer.
Okay, so once again, to kind of lead, we don't know the extent yet of what we're going to take in, but the current kind of conceptual idea plan is that we do it in sections like the north side of Dale. And we'd start after Labor Day. And then when that was finished, we'd move to the south side of Dale. And what that'll do is, after Labor Day, we can kind of get away for a little bit with 27 holes. It's tough at the start, but then it's very easy to get away with 27 holes. And then as we get in towards November, the people are still out there working. We've switched, and we might be down to 18, but in November, we really only need 18. And when we go to view, we go front and back. So you'll have 27 holes, you may be able to play 9 on Dale at that time, but you won't be playing 1 through 9, you'll be playing 6 through 9, 10 through, just to keep costs down during construction.
And here's also, understand, so if we're going through the schematic designs, there already, one gentleman asked a question about, fixing view. So obviously he may have a few bigger ideas in mind, okay? So not only does that come with a construction price point, but that comes also then with a time, allotment. And so that may or may not fit into what Ken just said. So that's part of this decision-making process too, right? So here's what happens is that, let's say, and I'm only picking on number 6 because it's just been brought up, but let's say you're gonna go out and do a major rebuild, and whatever that means, of hole number 6. Okay, what does that do in terms of cost? What does it do in terms of when do we have to shut the hole down? So how long is that hole going to be down? Then that also has an impact on, okay, can we maybe not do outings on Mondays? Maybe we lose the ability to do that. Okay, so it's not just about the construction cost, but it's also about potential lost revenue too. All of those things get tagged. So when you start to see the schematic design ideas that come up, each of those schematic design ideas essentially get tagged with each of those. This is what the cost is, this is what the disruption likely is, this is how long the golf course may be down, right? And so when you're making a decision on, is this something worth pursuing, and you've got the committee and ultimately the membership that are vetting these ideas, it's not just on the validity of what that design is, but it's also what impact that particular design option would bring with it.
Also, which I forgot to mention there, on the flip side of that window, when we come out, when the window of golf opens up here in the next month or two, we don't need 36 holes. And then sort of as we get closer to Memorial Day, we kind of do, and we would hope to have open and put that into the schedule at that time. So that's one blessing of having, one of the many blessings of having 36 holes and being in a seasonal area like we are here in Ohio. Next.
Thanks for the presentation, very good. So you built 400 or 500 golf courses, and so we're all going to fill out this survey, and nobody in the room has built one golf course that I know of. So I'm potentially nervous about filling out the survey because I would get exactly to the other question. I hate that hole also, but that could not be the biggest issue we face. So is there in your process a point at which you as experts would give us, kind of separate from our survey, your perspective on A, things we should be thinking about before we even take the survey, or B, your assessment of what you see from the experiences you've had with the other 400 courses that you've done?
So the question is that what type of nervous about taking the survey, and what type of, trying to create a synopsis here.
Well, it's just your assessment.
Right, our unfettered assessment of the golf course.
Give us the benefit of your expertise.
Yeah, there's no question that, this isn't designed by committee, so understand that. I mean, we have that experience, we fully expect that you're gonna rely on our experience. Not just Dana's and mine and Patrick's, but Kent's and your entire staff here too, right? So, you have Gil and then a new director of golf, and everybody's relying upon their professional experience to bring this entire thing together. Rest assured, we'll speak our minds, we'll give you guidance, we'll say, listen, if this were our club, this is what we would do, based upon whatever that factor is. You will get an unfettered, opinion. There's no question about it. I don't want you to feel that you need some sort of tutorial to take the survey. Part of what we're doing in the survey too, I'll be very blunt about it, is that we know that there are certain things that need to be done out on that golf course. We already know what some of your answers, not always, but we already know what some of your answers are going to be, okay? Part of what the survey, frankly, is that we're gathering that solicitation from you, because we know what boxes you're going to check and the comments that you're going to have. And when it comes time to go and make a suggestion, you know, that we already think needs to be done, we're gonna have then that data to say, you know what, look what the membership said, okay? I'll give you a prime example of what happens. A lot of times I'll get committee members that will, when I say committee members, meaning improvement committee members, they'll ask and they'll say, we know that we've talked about trees before, okay? I know it's a hot topic at every single club we're at. I'm sure it is here too, okay? Why don't you ask on the survey, you know, what do you think about cutting trees down, okay? Ken's shuddering right now because he's going, I can't believe you're bringing this up in the committee, or I mean in the town hall meeting, all right? Well, because if we ask that question, you know, unadulterated, here it is, you know, would you favor cutting trees down? Virtually every single person in this room is gonna click the box and say, no, okay? Now, when I go and I ask the question on the survey, what greens are in the best condition? What greens are in the worst condition? And you're gonna go through and you're gonna go click, 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 click. And I already know that some of those greens that are in the worst condition are because they're being choked out by trees, because they have traffic patterns, because of this, because of that, okay? And when you go through that, right, you're gonna start to think about that, and you're gonna be clicking boxes, right? Now I can go back and say, okay, you remember when you said that whatever green is typically in abysmal shape come, you know, the end of August? When I go back and then say, well, you remember when we talked about, you know, let's talk about trees now. And we've got this great, interesting technology where we track the sun that goes across at certain points of the day and certain times of the year, and they can give you all the technical explanation that anybody would ever need or even want. But the fact of the matter is that you've got two options. You either move the green, or you end up cutting a couple of trees down, and we can pick out exactly what trees need to come down. Or you know what? The green that you just said is always in bad condition come the end of August. If you decide to leave the trees alone, that's what you're gonna have. Okay? And so I can stand up here and say, my recommendation, Dana's recommendation, Kent's recommendation is cut these two trees down. Or be satisfied with that turf condition and don't complain about it anymore. Right? And so there's a whole lot of this sort of thing that's happening in the survey as well. Okay? And it's not that we're trying to hide anything from you, it's that we're trying to open up, you know, the thought process and the way that people think about their own golf course. So don't be afraid to take the survey. You know, we do want honest feedback. We don't want to guide you in any one direction or another. Yes, part of it is sort of psychological. That's okay too. I freely admit it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. I'd like to echo Bob's concern that, you know, the design by committee. I was pretty intimately involved with the last two renovations that went on here at Kenwood Country Club, and I was stunned and amazed at how many golf course architects were actually members of this club through that process.
Not only here, but virtually every other club too.
Right. So I would first like to thank the committee for identifying such a quality organization based on the presentation. Thanks for the time that the committee members put into identifying your group. The one thing I would like to see is that we don't, I think one of the flaws that or one of the mistakes that we made in the past in prior renovations was what you were just touching on earlier, and that was kind of handcuffing ourselves by trying to keep certain holes open during the renovation process rather than allowing the experts like you to design the best possible solution for our club, even though it might mean a short-term inconvenience to us as members, whether it's a reduction in the amount of outings that we can host or giving up 9 holes for a period of time. I think at this point it's about getting the correct result, having the best possible design, and relying on the experts that we've hired in you. I mean, I see that, you know, obviously one of your high quality designs is Aaron Hill's. Everybody witnessed that design during the US Open. Myself included, I really don't think anybody but your firm is qualified to make those judgments about what the changes are that we make. I appreciate the effort in gaining member feedback, but we're hiring you to develop that kind of a result, not to build a golf hole that we think is right or wrong. So
I appreciate that. You know, we're here to help guide, You know, we're definitely here to help guide. By the way, you know, one thing that I do want to state, I'm surprised nobody's asked us, you know, what your first sort of opinions are on the golf courses. I remember I played here several years in the past, you know, had an opportunity to be around the club, obviously a lot recently. You know, but one of the things, you know, that Dana and I have talked sort of privately, you know, behind the scenes together with, you know, what a wonderful experience. I mean, here you've got this storied club. Which is, you know, considered one of the better clubs, if not, you know, one of the best clubs in this region. But there is no reason that your golf courses can't and shouldn't be considered to be the top golf courses in the entire region, for sure. Okay, people here and probably are members at Camargo and Coldstream and other places, but there is zero reason why they shouldn't be thinking of Kenwood first. You do have that opportunity. Anything, anybody else?
Yes.
By the way, if somebody needs to leave, you're not gonna hurt anybody's, you know, please go. I know people have got lives and things to do, so feel free to excuse yourself.
So on that note, if there's one thing you think we're missing, or a couple things you think we're missing, cost is not a big factor, what is that?
A couple of things we're missing, you want to answer that one?
Forgetting money, forgetting what it would cost to get there, what do you think we could do to take it to, you know, someone says best sport in Cincinnati is, you know, Camargo, whatever, what is it we can do to be there?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, you're talking about my opinion, and this hasn't really even been discussed or shared. You know, between the discussions with Dana and I, you know, first off, you look at Kendale, you know, basically it's in its original footprint. You know, you've got this wonderful golf course that needs a little TLC, right? So bunkers in the wrong location, sight lines have been lost, maybe some of the greens have gotten a little too severe. So, you know, you've got this opportunity not, you know, to not spend a whole lot of money to really bring that up and basically put the shine back on it. You know, Kenview depends on what your, you know, viewpoint is. I know that, you know, Kenview is favored by certain contingencies of golfers. You know, if you're looking at it from a purely, you know, if you brought in Dana's a golf magazine rater, right? So when you see the top 100 top 100 courses in the country and the world, he's one of those ones that goes out, you know, and identifies what those golf courses are. You know, and you've got completely different styles of golf holes and, you know, sort of this mishmash. And when you're out there, you're not sure, is it supposed to be a modern course? You know, is it supposed to be an old storied, historic golf course? Part of that, obviously, you know, was when 71 was put in and enlarged. You know, so it goes back to that. You know, so it depends on, you know, it really depends on what your viewpoint is. You know, for me, if nothing else, you'd like to have, you know, playable, beautiful, you know, homogeneous golf course. And it's, you know, it's really eclectic, I guess, is the word that we're putting it right now. I'm good at, you know, riding that. He's laughing because I'm good at riding the fence here.
Any more questions?
We'll be around for a little bit, so if anybody wants to come up and ask us questions,